I walked into Giordano's at exactly 7:30. The hostess smiled at me like nothing was wrong, like I wasn't about to sit at a table reserved for 7 people, completely alone. Reservation under Blackwell, I said. She checked her tablet. Yes, sir, party of 7. Right this way. I followed her through the restaurant, past couples sharing wine, families laughing over appetizers, groups of friends celebrating whatever normal people celebrate on a Tuesday night. She led me to a large circular table near the window, the kind they reserve for birthdays and anniversaries. There were 7 place settings, 7 chairs, 7 empty spaces that were supposed to be filled by people I loved. My wife wasn't coming. My 3 kids weren't coming. My best friend since college wasn't coming. My own brother, the guy I grew up sharing a bedroom with, wasn't coming either. Can I get you started with something to drink? The hostess asked. Just water for now. I'm expecting others. The lie came out smooth. Natural. She nodded and walked away. I sat down and pulled out my phone, pretending to check messages like I wasn't sitting here being stood up by my entire family on my 40th birthday. A few people at nearby tables glanced over. I could feel their pity. Poor guy. Look at all those empty chairs. I'd sent the invitations 3 weeks ago. Actual printed invitations, not just a group text. I wanted this to feel special. 40 felt like a milestone worth celebrating. I'd picked this restaurant because it was my wife's favorite. I'd chosen Tuesday because I knew everyone's schedule was clear. I'd even offered to cover the bill for everyone. 7 invitations sent. 0 responses. Not even a decline. Just silence. My phone buzzed. I looked down, hoping maybe someone was running late, but it was just a promotional email from some clothing store. I set the phone face down on the table. A waiter approached, younger guy, probably mid-20s. Good evening, sir. I'm Trevor, and I'll be taking care of you tonight. Are we waiting on the rest of your party? Yeah, they're running a bit late. Another lie. Getting easier each time. No problem. Can I get you started with an appetizer while you wait? Our calamari is excellent. Sure, why not? He walked away and I sat there, looking at the empty chairs. I thought about my wife that morning. She'd kissed me on the cheek, wished me happy birthday, handed me a card with a generic message about getting older. She didn't mention dinner. Didn't ask what time the reservation was. Nothing. My oldest daughter had texted me at noon. Just the words, "Happy birthday, Dad," with a cake emoji. When I'd reminded her about dinner, she'd left me on read. The calamari arrived. I ate it slowly, making it last. Trevor came back twice to refill my water. Each time he glanced at the empty chairs, his professional smile getting a little more strained. By 8:15, I'd finished the appetizer. The restaurant was getting busier. I could hear a group at the bar doing shots, someone's birthday maybe. Their laughter felt like it was mocking me. Trevor returned. Sir, would you like to order, or should we wait a bit longer? I opened my mouth to give him another excuse when a different waiter approached the table, an older gentleman with gray hair. Excuse me, are you Mr. Blackwell? Yeah. He handed me a small folded note, the kind they use for those fancy dessert messages. This just came for you. The hostess said it was urgent. I unfolded it. 3 words written in neat handwriting. Check your phone. I picked up my phone and saw 12 missed calls. All from the same number. My father-in-law, Richard Caldwell. Before I could process that, a text came through. Then another. Then 3 more in rapid succession. Richard, call me now. This is not a joke. I just got the alert from the trust law firm. Call me before you do something we all regret. Whatever you're planning, we can talk about this. You're going to destroy this entire family's financial future. I stared at those messages for a long moment. Then I did something I hadn't done in weeks. I smiled. Not a fake smile for the waiter. Not a polite smile for strangers. An actual, genuine smile. Trevor was hovering nearby, clearly concerned. Sir, is everything all right? I stood up, pulled out my wallet, and handed him 3 20s. For your trouble, I need to cancel the reservation. But you didn't even order dinner yet. I know. Keep the change. I walked out of that restaurant with my head high. Behind me, that table for 7 sat empty. 7 place settings. 7 chairs. 7 people who'd made their choice. And I just made mine. My phone buzzed again. Richard, calling for the 13th time. I declined it and kept walking to my car. He could wait. They could all wait. After all, I'd waited for them to show up tonight. Seems only fair they get a taste of what that feels like. I got in my car, started the engine, and finally, after 3 weeks of playing the fool, I allowed myself to feel something other than humiliation. I felt powerful. I didn't go home. Not yet. Instead, I drove to the parking lot of a closed grocery store, pulled into a dark corner spot, and sat there with the engine running. My phone kept buzzing. Richard, my wife, my brother, even my so-called best friend Kyle was calling now. I ignored all of them and let my mind go back to 3 weeks ago, when this whole thing started to make sense. It was a Saturday morning. I'd woken up early for a run, came back to grab my water bottle from the kitchen, and found my wife's phone sitting on the counter. She was in the shower. The screen lit up with a text. From my brother, Owen. Last night was incredible. Can't stop thinking about you. I stood there, dripping sweat onto the tile floor, staring at those words. My first instinct was to tell myself I was misunderstanding. Maybe they were planning a surprise for me. Maybe it was about something innocent. But I'm not an idiot. I picked up her phone. No passcode. She'd always said she had nothing to hide. I opened the message thread between her and Owen. I should have stopped at the first message. I didn't. I read 2 months' worth of texts. Pictures. Plans to meet up while I was at work. Discussions about how long they could keep this going. Jokes about me being clueless. One message from Owen stood out. He trusts everyone. Makes this almost too easy. I put the phone back exactly where I found it. Went upstairs. Took a shower. Got dressed. Came back down and kissed my wife good morning like nothing had changed. But everything had changed. I spent the next week debating what to do. Confront them immediately? Kick her out? Call Owen and break his jaw? But then I remembered something. The trust. 7 years ago, my father-in-law Richard set up a family trust. He'd made a fortune in commercial properties, and when he hit 60, he decided to protect his wealth. The trust was complicated, designed by expensive lawyers to minimize taxes and protect assets across generations. My wife was one of the primary beneficiaries. So were our kids. Richard had always liked me, respected me. When he set up the trust, he'd pulled me aside and explained how it worked. He'd even added a clause, something he was particularly proud of. He called it his character protection provision. If any beneficiary engaged in infidelity, substance abuse, or criminal activity, they would be immediately removed from the trust. Not just reduced benefits, complete removal. The money would be redistributed to other family members or held for grandchildren. At the time, I thought it was excessive. Now, I thought it was brilliant. So instead of confronting anyone, I made some calls. I contacted Richard's attorney, a sharp woman named Patricia Brennan who'd handled the trust documents. I scheduled a confidential meeting. I need to understand the infidelity clause, I told her in her downtown office. She pulled up the documents. It's straightforward. Proof of adultery results in immediate disqualification. The trustee, which is currently your father-in-law, would be obligated to remove the beneficiary. There's no discretion in the language. If the proof exists, the consequence is automatic. What counts as proof? Text messages, photographs, video evidence, witness testimony. The standard is preponderance of evidence, not beyond reasonable doubt. This is a civil matter, not criminal. I nodded slowly. And if I'm the one filing for divorce and providing this evidence, then you'd be doing exactly what the trust documents anticipate. Mr. Caldwell wrote this clause specifically to protect family wealth from what he called moral failures. His words, not mine. Does Richard have to be the one to enforce it? As trustee, yes. But if you file for divorce with documented proof of adultery, the trust law firm will automatically notify him. They're required to. They'll give him 72 hours to comply with the trust terms, or they'll remove him as trustee and enforce it themselves. I thanked her and left. Then I got to work. I installed tracking software on my wife's phone. Not illegal since we shared a family plan and I was the account holder. I hired a private investigator, a former cop named Vernon Shaw who charged reasonable rates and didn't ask unnecessary questions. I opened a separate bank account and started moving money, carefully, nothing that would trigger alerts, just enough to protect myself. And I documented everything. Every late night, book club, that was actually a hotel meetup. Every lunch break that lasted 3 hours. Every weekend she claimed to be helping her sister that she actually spent with Owen. Vernon got photos, video, credit card receipts from hotels, text message backups. I had enough evidence to sink a ship. Then I did something that felt petty but necessary. I sent out those invitations. I wanted to see if anyone would show up, if anyone still cared, if maybe I was wrong about how far this betrayal went. Kyle knew. I'm certain of it now. My own best friend knew my brother was sleeping with my wife and said nothing. My kids? I'm less sure about them, but they'd clearly chosen a side, and it wasn't mine. So I'd sat in that restaurant tonight, at that table for 7, and I'd let them all think I was pathetic, sad, oblivious. Then, at exactly 8 o'clock, my attorney filed the divorce papers, with every single piece of evidence attached. The law firm for the trust would have received automatic notification within minutes, which explains why Richard was currently blowing up my phone. My screen lit up again. This time, it was my wife calling. I let it go to voicemail. She called again immediately. Then Owen called. Then Kyle. I turned off my phone completely and just sat there in the dark parking lot, watching the occasional car drive past on the main road. I thought about that text from Owen. He trusts everyone. Makes this almost too easy. He was right. I had trusted everyone. My wife, my brother, my best friend, even my kids, who apparently knew something was wrong, but never bothered to ask me about it. But trust is funny. Once you lose it, you can't get it back. And once you stop trusting people, you start seeing things clearly. You stop making excuses for them. You stop giving them the benefit of the doubt. You start making plans. I started my car and finally headed home. It was time to see what kind of chaos my little chess move had created. Richard's messages promised I was destroying the family's financial future. Good, because they'd already destroyed mine. I pulled into my driveway at 9:15. Every light in the house was on. Through the front window, I could see shadows moving around. They were all here now. Funny how nobody could make it to my birthday dinner, but the second their money was threatened, they all found time. I sat in the car for a minute, watching. My wife paced past the window, phone pressed to her ear, probably talking to her father. Owen's truck was parked on the street, which took some nerve considering this was still my house. I grabbed my phone and turned it back on. Immediately, it started buzzing with notifications. 53 missed calls. Dozens of texts. I scrolled through a few. Richard had sent multiple messages demanding we talk rationally, accusing me of being vindictive and destructive, telling me to think about my children's future. My wife was asking where I was, saying we needed to talk before I did something stupid, claiming Richard was losing his mind and I needed to fix this. Owen wanted to talk, saying things were getting out of hand. Kyle was confused, asking what was going on because Richard had called him freaking out. I almost laughed. They still thought this was negotiable. They still thought I was the same person who'd let himself be walked all over. I got out of the car and walked to my front door. Before I could reach it, it swung open. My wife stood there, and I barely recognized the look on her face. Panic. Genuine fear. Where have you been? Her voice was higher than normal. I've been calling you for hours. I walked past her into my own house. The living room looked like a war room. Owen sat on the couch, elbows on his knees, head down. Kyle stood by the fireplace, looking uncomfortable. My 2 oldest kids, Nathan and Lily, were there too, both in their 20s, both looking at me like I'd done something wrong. Nice of everyone to finally show up. I said, shame you couldn't make it to dinner. This isn't funny, my wife said, closing the door behind me. Do you have any idea what you've done? I set my keys on the table by the door. I filed for divorce. Pretty standard procedure when your spouse is sleeping with your brother. The room went silent. Owen looked up, face pale. Kyle's eyes went wide. Nathan and Lily exchanged glances. Dad? Lily started, but I held up a hand. I know everything. The hotels, the text messages, the lunch breaks at Owen's place while I was working. All of it. I looked at Owen. 2 months. Was it worth it? Owen stood up. Look, man, I know this looks bad, but it looks bad. I turned to face him fully. My own brother. You sat at my dinner table. You borrowed money from me last year when your truck needed repairs. You were at Nathan's graduation party making jokes about family loyalty. We didn't mean for it to happen. My wife cut in. It developed. I laughed. Actually laughed. It developed. Like a photograph. Or a rash. That's what we're calling it. You don't understand, she continued, voice getting desperate. We tried to stop. We knew it was wrong. But you kept going. For 2 months. And you know what the funny part is? I walked into the living room, stood in the center where everyone could see me. I wouldn't have cared about the trust. I would have just divorced you, split things fairly, and moved on. But Richard was so proud of his character clause. Remember that, honey? When he set up the trust and explained how it would protect the family from people with questionable morals. Her face went white. You can't do this. I already did. I pulled out my phone, opened my email, and showed her the receipt from my attorney. Divorce papers filed at 8 p.m., complete with photographs, text messages, hotel receipts, and a sworn affidavit from a licensed investigator. The trust law firm received notification at 8:07. "You bastard," Owen said, taking a step toward me. I didn't move. "That's rich, coming from you. Tell me, did you think about me at all? When you were texting her those messages? When you were making plans? Did it cross your mind even once that this was your brother's wife?" "It wasn't like that," he stammered. "Then what was it like, Owen? Explain it to me. Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you decided your own gratification was more important than 38 years of brotherhood." Kyle cleared his throat. "Maybe everyone should calm down and—" "You knew?" I turned to him. "Don't even try to deny it. You knew and you said nothing." He couldn't meet my eyes. "I didn't know how to tell you. How about, hey, your wife is cheating on you with your brother? Seems pretty straightforward." "Dad, please," Nathan said. "Can we just focus on fixing this?" "Fixing what exactly? Your mother's affair? Your uncle's betrayal? Or are you talking about the trust?" I looked at him. "Let me guess. Richard called you, told you that mom was about to lose millions, and suddenly you care about family dinners again." Lily stepped forward. "That's not fair. We didn't know about any of this. You didn't want to know. There's a difference." I moved toward the stairs. "But here's the situation. The trust documents are clear. Infidelity means immediate removal as beneficiary. The law firm has 72 hours to enforce it, and if Richard tries to interfere, they'll remove him as trustee." My wife grabbed my arm. "Please, we can work through this. I'll do whatever you want. Counseling, therapy, anything." I pulled my arm free. "You should have thought about that before you sent your affair partner a text saying I was too trusting. Before you spent my money on hotel rooms. Before you convinced everyone to skip my birthday dinner because you were too busy planning your next meetup." "The dinner wasn't about that," she said weakly. "Then what was it about?" "Because 7 people got invitations. 7 people knew it was my 40th birthday. And 7 people decided I wasn't worth 2 hours of their time." I looked around the room. "But now that money is involved, you're all here. Interesting how that works." Richard's name flashed on my wife's phone. She answered immediately. "Dad, he's here." "Yes, I'll tell him." She held the phone toward me. "He wants to talk to you." "I'm sure he does." "Please," she begged. "Just talk to him." I took the phone. "Richard, what the hell do you think you're doing?" His voice was strained, angry. "Do you understand what you're throwing away?" "I understand perfectly. Your daughter committed adultery. The trust you created has consequences for that. I'm simply making sure those consequences happen. We can settle this privately. You don't need to destroy her future. She destroyed her own future. I'm just making sure everyone knows about it. Think about your children. They're beneficiaries too. This affects them. My children are adults. They'll inherit their share when the time comes. Your daughter, however, made choices that disqualify her. Your words, Richard. Your clause. I'll fight this," he said, voice shaking. "I'll find a way to block it. The law firm will have you removed as trustee within 72 hours if you try." Patricia Brennan explained it to me very clearly. "The trust documents are ironclad. You wrote them that way." I paused. "You told me once that you created that clause because you wanted to make sure the family money went to people of character. Congratulations. It's working exactly as intended." I hung up and tossed the phone onto the couch. My wife was crying now, full breakdown tears. Owen looked sick. Kyle had retreated toward the door. Nathan and Lily just stared. "I'm going to bed," I announced. "I suggest everyone who doesn't live here leaves." "Now, this is my house too," my wife said through tears. "Actually, it's in my name. Purchased before marriage. You're welcome to stay tonight, but I'd start looking for other arrangements." I headed for the stairs. "Oh, and Owen, don't ever contact me again. You're not my brother anymore. As far as I'm concerned, I'm an only child now." I walked upstairs without looking back. Behind me, I heard my wife sobbing. Owen trying to say something, Kyle making excuses to leave. I closed the bedroom door, locked it, and sat on the edge of the bed. My phone buzzed. Patricia Brennan. "The Trust Compliance Office reached out," she texted. "They've confirmed receipt of evidence. Formal review begins tomorrow morning. You did everything correctly." I typed back, "Thank you." Then I laid back on the bed, still fully dressed, and stared at the ceiling. Downstairs, I could hear voices. Arguments. Crying. The sounds of consequences finally catching up to choices. Richard had called his clause character protection. Turned out, it protected my character just fine. I woke up the next morning to silence. No sounds from downstairs. No coffee brewing. No morning routine. I checked my phone. 6:30 a.m. Wednesday. I got up, showered, dressed for work like it was any other day. When I came downstairs, my wife was asleep on the couch, still in yesterday's clothes. Owen's truck was gone. Smart man. I made coffee, poured a cup, and sat at the kitchen table. The house felt different. Emptier. Or maybe just more honest. My wife stirred on the couch, sat up slowly. Her eyes were red and swollen. She looked at me like she was seeing a stranger. "You're really going through with this," she said. Not a question. Yes. Even knowing what it'll do to me. To us. To the kids. I took a sip of coffee. The kids are adults. They'll be fine. As for you and me, there is no us. There hasn't been for 2 months. You just didn't bother telling me. She stood up, walked over to the table, but didn't sit. I made a mistake. People make mistakes. A mistake is forgetting to pick up milk. A mistake is being late to dinner. What you did was make a choice. Multiple choices. Every single day for 2 months. So that's it. 10 years of marriage gone. You ended the marriage when you slept with Owen. I'm just filing the paperwork. Her phone buzzed on the coffee table. She glanced at it, then back at me. That's my father. He wants to meet with you. He says he has a proposal. I'm not interested in proposals. Just hear him out. Please. He's willing to make adjustments to the trust. Add you as a beneficiary. Set up accounts for you. I set my coffee down. Let me make something very clear. This isn't about money. This is about consequences. You broke the rules your father created. Now you face the penalty he wrote into his own documents. That's how accountability works. You're being cruel. I'm being fair. There's a difference. My phone rang. Patricia Brennan. I answered on speaker. "Good morning," she said, professional as always. "I wanted to update you. The trust compliance team completed their preliminary review overnight. They've confirmed the evidence meets the burden of proof. They're proceeding with removal proceedings." How long does that take? Richard has 48 hours to voluntarily comply. If he doesn't, they'll petition to remove him as trustee and install their backup trustee, who will enforce the clause immediately. My wife was staring at me, tears starting again. I ignored her. "What about the divorce?" I asked. "That's separate but faster. Given the documented evidence and no dispute over assets since the house is solely in your name, we're looking at 90 days standard processing. She can contest, but it won't change the outcome." "Good. Keep me updated." I hung up. My wife sank into a chair. 48 hours. That's all I have. That's all your father has to follow his own rules. He's going to lose everything he built. No, you're going to lose your access to everything he built. He'll still have his properties, his investments, his wealth. He just won't be able to give it to someone who violated his character standards. She looked up at me, anger finally breaking through the tears. "You planned this. The birthday dinner. The timing. All of it. I documented your affair and filed appropriate legal paperwork. If that feels like planning, maybe you should have thought about consequences before you started sleeping with my brother. Our kids are going to hate you for this. Our kids ignored my birthday dinner. I think we're past worrying about their opinions of me." She stood up abruptly. "I'm going to my sister's. I can't be here right now. Take whatever clothes you need. I'll have the locks changed by tonight. You can't kick me out. I have rights. Check with a lawyer. House was purchased before marriage. Solely in my name. I'm within my rights to deny access, especially given ongoing divorce proceedings and documented infidelity." She grabbed her keys and purse, headed for the door, then turned back. "I hope you're happy. You're destroying a family over this. I'm not destroying anything. You already did that. I'm just making sure everyone sees the rubble." She slammed the door on her way out. I finished my coffee in the quiet house. My phone buzzed. Nathan calling. I answered. "Dad, we need to talk." His voice was tight. "Go ahead. Lily and I talked last night. We think you need to reconsider this trust thing." "Do you?" "Mom made a mistake, yeah. But cutting her off completely? That's extreme. Your grandfather wrote that clause. Take it up with him. But you're the one enforcing it. You could stop this." "I could. But I won't. Your mother made choices. Choices have consequences. That's something I thought I'd taught you. This isn't about teaching lessons, Dad. This is about revenge." I stood up, walked to the window. "Let me ask you something, Nathan. Did you know about your mother and Owen?" Silence. "That's what I thought. So you knew, or at least suspected, and you said nothing. You ignored my birthday invitation. You watched me sit alone at that restaurant, and you did nothing. Now you're calling me to defend her. We didn't want to take sides. You already did. You took hers. And that's fine. You're adults. Make your choices. But don't call me expecting sympathy when those choices have consequences too. What's that supposed to mean? It means I'm your father, but I'm not going to beg for your attention or respect. You want a relationship with me? It's available. But it'll be on terms of mutual respect, not manipulation. So you're choosing money over family. I'm choosing self-respect over being walked on. There's a difference. I paused. Your grandfather's trust will still benefit you when the time comes. Your mother's removal doesn't affect your inheritance. But if you're calling me trying to guilt me into backing down, you're wasting your time. Lily wants to talk to you too. Tell Lily I love her. Tell her my door is open when she's ready to have an honest conversation. But I'm not negotiating about your mother. That decision is final. I hung up before he could respond. My phone buzzed again immediately. This time, Kyle. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won. What do you want? Man, I just wanted to say I'm sorry. I should have told you. Yes, you should have. I was trying not to get involved. I thought maybe it would blow over. 2 months, Kyle. You knew for 2 months and said nothing. I know. I screwed up. But we've been friends since college. That has to count for something. It counted for something. Past tense. You chose my brother and my wife over me. That's fine. But we're done. Come on, don't be like that. Be like what? Someone who doesn't keep friends who lie to his face? Someone who has standards? You stood in my house last night looking uncomfortable because you got caught, not because you felt guilty. That's not true. Then why didn't you tell me? At any point in 2 months? You had chances. Every time we grabbed lunch. Every time we talked on the phone. You chose silence. I didn't know what to say. How about the truth? Seems simple enough. I grabbed my keys. I have to get to work. Don't call me again. Wait. I hung up and headed for the door. My phone buzzed with more texts as I drove to the office. Richard trying to set up a meeting. My wife saying I'd regret this. Owen asking if we could talk man to man. I deleted every message without reading them fully. At work, I focused on my projects, my clients, my responsibilities. Normal life. The life I should have been living instead of dealing with betrayal. At lunch, my phone rang. Patricia again. Richard just filed a motion to freeze the trust proceedings. He's claiming undue influence and requesting an emergency hearing. Can he do that? He can file whatever he wants. But the trust documents are clear. I've already filed our response. The judge will likely deny his motion within 24 hours. He's grasping at straws. Keep me posted. That evening, I came home to my quiet house. I'd had the locks changed during lunch break. My wife's car was in the driveway, but she couldn't get in. She was sitting on the front steps. Really? She said when she saw me. Change the locks. I told you I would. My clothes are in there. My things. I'll pack them up this weekend. You can pick them up from your sister's place. You're being ridiculous. I unlocked the door, stepped inside, and looked back at her. I'm being decisive. There's a difference. You made your choice. I made mine. We're done talking about it. I closed the door before she could respond. Inside, the house was dark and quiet. Exactly how I wanted it. My phone buzzed one more time. Richard, sending a long message about family and forgiveness and second chances. I turned off my phone and made dinner for one. Tomorrow, Richard's 48 hours would be up. The compliance team would enforce the trust clause. My wife would lose everything she thought was guaranteed. And I would sleep soundly for the first time in 3 weeks. Because sometimes, the best revenge is just letting the rules work exactly as written. Friday morning, Richard's 48 hours were up. I was at my desk when Patricia called. It's done. Richard attempted to block the proceedings, but the judge denied his emergency motion at 8 a.m. The compliance team has officially removed your wife as a beneficiary. The trust restructure is complete. I leaned back in my chair. How did Richard take it? He's threatening to sue everyone involved. The firm. Me. You. It's all noise. The trust documents are ironclad. And my wife. She has no legal standing to challenge this. The trust was never hers to begin with. It was Richard's creation, his rules, his money. She was simply a beneficiary who violated the terms. After we hung up, I sat there for a moment. It was over. The financial consequences were real now. My phone buzzed. Not Richard this time. My youngest daughter, Claire. She was 19, away at college. We'd barely spoken since this started. Dad, can we talk? Of course. I just got off the phone with Mom. She's devastated. Grandpa is refusing to speak to her. Nathan and Lily are fighting about whose fault this is. She paused. I just want to understand what happened. So I told her. Everything. The affair. The birthday dinner. The trust clause. The choice I made to enforce accountability. Mom really did that. Her voice was small. Yes. And Uncle Owen? Yes. She was quiet for a long moment. I'm sorry I missed your birthday. Thank you. I was studying for midterms. But that's not an excuse. I should have been there. You're okay, sweetheart. You didn't know what was happening. Are you okay, Dad? The question surprised me. Nobody else had asked. I'm getting there. Good. Because I'm coming home next weekend. Just to see you. If that's all right. I'd like that very much. After we hung up, I felt something shift. Not forgiveness for everyone else. Just clarity. Some relationships were worth saving. Others needed to end. That evening, I got one final message. From Owen. He was apologizing, saying he'd lost his brother and his family respect over something that meant nothing. He claimed my wife had pursued him, that he'd been weak. I deleted it without responding. Some people only apologize when consequences arrive. That's not remorse. That's regret for getting caught. Richard never contacted me again. I heard through mutual connections that he'd restructured the entire trust, adding additional character clauses and compliance requirements. Apparently, watching his daughter lose millions taught him his original document wasn't strict enough. My wife moved in with her sister. The divorce proceeded smoothly. She tried once to negotiate the house, but her attorney told her she had no case. Nathan and Lily eventually reached out. Awkward conversations at first, but honest ones. They admitted they'd known something was wrong, but didn't want to believe it. We started rebuilding slowly. Cal sent a few messages over the following weeks. I never responded. Some friendships don't survive betrayal, and that's fine. 3 months later, I sat in that same restaurant where I'd spent my 40th birthday alone. But this time, Claire was across from me. Just the two of us. No empty chairs. No broken promises. This place makes good lasagna, she said, reading the menu. They do. Is it weird being here? Not anymore. That night was the beginning of something better. I just didn't know it yet. She smiled. You know what Grandpa told me? He said you did exactly what he hoped someone would do when he wrote that trust clause. He said you had more integrity than his own daughter. He said that. Yeah, he's proud of you. In his weird, doesn't know how to say it way. I thought about that birthday. The empty table. The humiliation. The moment I decided enough was enough. You want to know something? I said. That night, sitting alone, was the best gift I ever gave myself. How so? Because I finally chose me. My dignity. My self-respect. Everything else fell into place after that. Claire raised her water glass. To choosing yourself. I clinked my glass against hers. To choosing yourself. The waiter came over, and this time, when he asked if we were waiting on anyone else, I smiled and said no. This was exactly the table I needed. 6 months after that birthday dinner, I signed the final divorce papers in Patricia's office. That's it, she said, sliding the documents into a folder. You're officially divorced. Clean split. House stays yours. Retirement accounts divided fairly. She gets nothing from the trust, obviously. How's she doing? I asked, not because I cared deeply, but because I was curious. Working retail, living with her sister. Richard won't speak to her. She tried to contest the trust removal one more time last month. Judge dismissed it in under 5 minutes. I nodded. And Owen moved 2 states away. Heard he's struggling to find work. Turns out your family has connections he depended on. I left her office and drove to the storage unit where I'd kept some old furniture. Claire was meeting me there. She'd graduated early and was moving back home for a while before starting her career. When I pulled up, she was already there, leaning against her car. Ready to dig through Dad's hoarding? She joked. I'm not a hoarder. I'm sentimental. We spent the afternoon sorting through boxes. Old photos. Furniture. Things from a life that didn't exist anymore. You keeping any pictures of Mom? Claire asked, holding up an old wedding photo. You can have whatever you want. I don't need them. She set it aside in her pile. Nathan called me yesterday. He wants to have dinner with you next week. Yeah, we've been talking. He apologized. Really apologized, not the fake kind. What about Lily? We had coffee last month. She's working through things. We're okay. Claire smiled. You sound lighter. Happier. I am. Turns out removing toxic people from your life does that. We loaded her car with the furniture she wanted and locked up the unit. As we stood in the parking lot, she hugged me. I'm proud of you, Dad, for standing up for yourself, for not backing down. Thank you, sweetheart. That means more than you know. You dating anyone? I laughed. Not yet. Maybe someday. Right now, I'm just enjoying the peace. That evening, I sat on my back deck with a beer, watching the sunset. My phone buzzed. A message from Richard. I owe you an apology. You were right to enforce the clause. I'm sorry I fought you on it. If you're willing, I'd like to buy you dinner sometime. I stared at the message for a moment, then typed back. I'd like that. It wasn't forgiveness for his daughter. It wasn't reconciliation with people who'd betrayed me. It was simply acknowledgement that some people eventually understand accountability. I thought about that 40th birthday, the empty chairs, the humiliation, the moment everything changed. People ask me sometimes if I regret how I handled it, if I wish I'd been more forgiving, more understanding, more willing to compromise. My answer is always the same. No, because that night, sitting alone at a table for 7, I learned the most important lesson of my life. You can't control what other people do. You can't force them to respect you, value you, or choose you. But you can choose yourself. You can decide that your dignity matters more than their comfort, that your self-respect isn't negotiable, that consequences exist for a reason. I didn't destroy my family that night. They'd already done that themselves. I just refused to pretend everything was fine. And 6 months later, sitting on my deck, in my house, with my peace of mind intact and my self-respect restored, I realized something. That empty table wasn't the end of my story. It was the beginning of the one I actually wanted to live. I raised my beer to the sunset and smiled. Happy birthday to me.